Well, you know, they don't call them the Fighting Irish for nothing, and the fight right now is over the Catholic University's decision to invite President Barack Obama to speak at their graduation. He accepted that invitation to head back to his home state this May. Critics say that the president's stance on abortion and stem cell research, embryonic stem cell research, makes him the wrong pick. There's an online petition right now that is protesting the president's appearance. It already has more than 64,000 signatures. So who better than these two men to talk about this hot topic? Phil Donahue is here. You know him well, of course, but you may not know, some of you, that he's a 1957 graduate of University of Notre Dame. And Father Jonathan Morris is joining us on the phone. He's a Fox News contributor, and he joins us on the phone from Rome. Phil, good to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure.
So is this something that a Catholic university should do, given all the controversy that has been brewing over embryonic stem cell research, which many Catholics are very much against, and also the abortion issue?
You know, since 1957, the year I graduated, in that year, 75% of all Catholics went to Mass regularly on Sunday. Today, it's 25%. Half of all Catholic high schools have closed. My parish as a child, St. Coleman's in Cleveland, a wonderful working-class parish that made such an important contribution to the American culture in the 20th century, just one of thousands, is closing. And we have now a group of alumni, members of the Catholic family of Notre Dame, wanting to shut the door on the President of the United States. I don't, you know, at a time when we should be reaching out, trying to get young Catholics to become part of the church, we seem to be lashing out.
Yeah, Father Jonathan, I want you to weigh in here. I hear a lot about the decline of the Catholic Church. I have to say, you know, in my own experience, I don't see it. I mean, when I go to Mass, you can barely get a seat. We have 5 Masses in my church on Sunday mornings. I see hundreds of kids making their first communion. So I am not so sure about that the Catholic Church is in decline. But let me have Father Jonathan weigh in on the basic premise of our conversation, which is, do you think that President Obama should be speaking at Notre Dame this commencement?
Sure. Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be speaking with you, Martha, and also with Mr. Donahue there, with Phil. I'm also from Cleveland, Ohio. Mr. Donahue, I think we have a lot in common. We also have a lot in common, the fact that we're both interested in civil rights issues and work for those. But what we don't have in common, and I think this also answers your question, Martha, is the belief that the Catholic Church needs to defend life from the very moment of conception all the way up until natural death. And I'm very happy to know that the University of Notre Dame also believes this. And that's why it is so surprising that they would choose to honor their giving. Remember, they're not just inviting him to speak. I would be very happy for him to speak in a debate format. But they're giving him an honorary degree. And I believe that this type of waffling that has allowed the Catholic Church during especially the 60s and the 70s, and we're still experiencing, unfortunately, some of the consequences of that, to get watered down and not to be attractive to people.
What do you think about that, Phil?
Well, I wish... why can't we just disagree and discuss the issue of abortion? It shouldn't be a deal breaker, Father. It shouldn't be used to exclude the President of the United States from my campus. I should also make this point. Nothing will enrage the people who are opposing the President's appearance more than my presuming to speak for Notre Dame. I am a divorced and remarried Catholic. I did not have my marriage annulled. I chose not to. I refused to pay somebody for a fee. They were going to tell me that I never really was married. I didn't know quite how to explain that to my children. So I can't go to communion. I wish, however, that the Pope, who's receiving a Holocaust-denying bishop, who's telling third-world men in age-ravaged countries not to use condoms, I wish this Pope would be more interested in perhaps raising his voice to the thunderous level that we get on all these other rules about, for example, the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the number of people being killed around the world because of the behavior of some dictatorial countries. I don't understand why we're so focused on archaic rules that were passed by old men sitting on wooden benches at the Council of Trent. Let's get to the modern world, and let's get these young Catholics back into the church.
Father Jonathan?
Sure. Well, Phil, you and I should sit down and do a show together sometime. I would love to talk about all of those issues. Let me start by saying that I'm 36 years old. I'm getting old, but I'm not that old. And quite honestly, I am very happy to say without any sort of embarrassment that when a university gives an honorary degree to somebody, in this case for being a good statesman, they need to give it to somebody who has been a good statesman in an honorary way. And that includes defending life according to our Constitution. And that is why, not because we're afraid of dialogue, not because we're afraid of debate, but rather let's talk about those things in the proper format, and that is of discussion and debate and dialogue.
But Father John, let me jump in because I want to ask you a quick question because we're almost out of time, and I want to get another thought from Phil. Would you recommend to students at Notre Dame, would you tell them you need to protest or you need to respect the President of the United States? Father Jonathan?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was for Mr.
That's
Donahue.
for you.
Well, I don't think those two things are contradictory. We should respect the President of the United States as President, but we should also respect our conscience and respect the truth to say, as a Catholic university, you are not standing up for an essential element of our faith. So come to us and debate and to discuss issues. But in my opinion, I don't think it's a good thing to be honoring somebody for something that's not honorable.
You know, whenever I confront an issue like this, I always try to put it in another context, you know. For example, what if you had, you know, a primarily Jewish university and you had an anti-Semitic speaker that was asked to speak at that commencement? It goes against the central core of the most fundamental belief of what that university stands for. So is that, although the issues are very different, is that applicable to this situation? Because a central core of Catholicism is a respect for and a protection of life, which cuts across this issue of embryonic stem cell research. And a lot of people believe that by backing embryonic, you're negating a couple of avenues that are very fruitful in science that would not, you know, involve the destruction of embryos, and the abortion issue, both of which the President has been very front and center on since he became President.
Well, I wouldn't equate anti-Semitism with people who are pro-choice.
You know, I think that most Americans recognize that this is a profoundly difficult issue for the women and families who make these decisions. They don't make them casually. And I trust women to make these decisions in conjunction with their doctors and their families and their clergy. And I think that's where most Americans are. Now, when you describe a specific procedure that accounts for less than 1% of the abortions that take place, then naturally people get concerned. The broader issue here is, do women have the right to make these profoundly difficult decisions, and I trust them to do it.